great state of Iowa. You know, the Word tells us, where two or more are gathered in His name, He will be with us. What an incredible gathering this is from across this state. How honored and humbled I am to be standing with so many patriots here in this room and with so many heroes who have gathered to tell us their tale of courage. You know, this nation we love, is unique in the annals of the history of the world. We are a nation that was founded by men and women fleeing religious oppression. Fleeing kings and monarchs who would oppress them, who would tell them who you may worship and who you may not. And men and women fled from all over the world to come to the New World, to seek out a land where every one of us could worship the Lord God Almighty with all of our hearts, minds, and souls, free of the government getting in the way. Our nation was founded with a bloody revolution. A bloody revolution that, under ordinary reason, had no business succeeding. A hapless group of colonists declared war on the mightiest army on the planet. And yet, with God's providential blessing, America prevailed. But there was a second revolution, a revolution more important than the revolution fought with guns and bayonets. The far more important revolution was the revolution of ideas. For millennia, man had been told that our rights come from kings and queens, handed down like crumbs, by grace of the monarch to be taken away by the whim of the monarch. Our country began with a fundamentally different proposition, that our rights do not come from government, they come from Almighty God. As the Declaration put it so powerfully, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed, not by a king, not by a queen, not even by a president. They are endowed by their Creator. With certain unalienable rights, and that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. With those words, this nation sprung into existence. There is a reason why in the Constitution and the Bill of Rights, the very first protection in the very first amendment of the Bill of Rights is the freedom of religion. If we cannot worship God, if we cannot live according to our faith and our dictates, all other liberties fade away. You know, Steve talked about the Ten Commandments case in Texas. Ten Commandments case in Texas concerned a monument that had stood there since 1961. Was erected, stood there for decades, disturbing nobody on the state capitol grounds, until an individual plaintiff, an atheist, a homeless man, walked past the monument and decided it offended him. And he filed a lawsuit seeking to tear down that monument. When that case went to the United States Supreme Court, when we argued that case, does anyone here know how many times in the courtroom of the United States Supreme Court the image of the Ten Commandments appears? 43 times. That's very good. 40 times Moines, the Ten Commandments are on the brass gates on the side of the courtroom. When you walk out of the courtroom, there are two large wooden doors, and on those wooden doors are two more images of the Ten Commandments. You cannot walk out of the courtroom without seeing the Ten Commandments directly in front of you. And those justices, when they heard the oral argument, right above their left shoulder, carved into the frieze, was Moses holding the Ten Commandments, looking down upon them. Now, we won that case. But we won it 5-4. 4 justices were willing to order the state of Texas tear down that monument that has stood on the state capitol grounds since 1961. We're one justice away. You want to know what this election is about? We are one justice away from the Supreme Court saying, every image of God shall be torn down. Thus saith man. You know, Kelly Shackelford talked about the Mojave Desert Veterans Memorial case. A lone white Latin cross, 7 feet tall, erected to honor the men and women who lost their lives in World War I. Once again, a plaintiff, the ACLU, came and sued. The plaintiff said, the image of a cross cannot be seen on federal land. Here in Iowa, there's litigation concerning exactly that today. I will say this, the plaintiffs were right on one thing. The cross has power. I'll tell you, it was humbling, it was moving, it was incredible to represent 3 million veterans standing before the Supreme Court, and we won that case also. But once again, it was 5-4. 4 justices were willing to say this monument to our veterans must be torn to the ground. Anyone who's visited Arlington Cemetery and seen row after row of tombstones with a cross and Star of David, honoring our soldiers who gave the last, the ultimate sacrifice, we're one justice away from the Supreme Court saying we must tear those down. And you know, I have to say, these threats have been growing. They have been growing for decades. But never have the threats been greater to religious liberty than they are right now and here today. You know, many in the media say these threats don't exist. They're not real. Well, the purpose of this gathering is to put a name and a face to these heroes. The purpose of this evening is to tell their stories. You know, there's a reason Jesus spoke in parables. Because that's how we understand. That's what touches our heart. That's what moves us. So it is my hope that all of us gathered here today, all of the home parties, all of the churches that are watching online, that believers across this country will come to know and love these ordinary men and women who were living their lives. They didn't ask for conflict. They didn't ask for confrontation. And the government came after them and said, choose between your faith and obedience to government power. And they said, I follow a higher power, and that is God Almighty. So in telling these stories, I want to start with one that many of you know already. 2 residents of Iowa, Iowa's own Dick and Betty O'Donnell. From Grimes, Iowa, they are an incredible couple, a couple I've gotten to know quite well. And I want to start simply by playing a video, and then we're going to invite at the same time Dick and Betty are going to come to the stage, and we're going to have an opportunity to have a conversation. So let's start the video.